Alrighty, fellas. It's debate time. It's debate time. It is fucking debate time. We are waiting for this shit to start. We got 3 minutes until we know how fucked we are. How fucked do you think we are out of 10, Connor?
Well, maybe a solid 7.
Yeah, I'm feeling 7 energy tonight. You know what I mean?
7, maybe a 6.
Yeah, for sure, like 7, 6 range. I'm not excited. I am not very excited for this.
We will see.
We will indeed see. Dude. I can't believe that this is a stream. You know?
It's about to be a funny stream.
This is about to be either very funny or we are going to be head and hands crying. Because as the libs, we got owned, totally. Yeah, there will be... This is going to be 90 minutes, 2 commercial breaks, I think.
Yeah, so, that's how I think it's going.
Yeah, let me adjust your size real quick. There we go.
There we go.
That looks a little better. Oh, I don't want to move that guy. I want to move this text over here. And then adjust my size a little bit so y'all can be like, I can see the debate now. And then Connor's there too.
And then I'm here.
And then you're here. I think we're looking good. Let me turn on the audio. Let me reset this. Make sure that it's not fucking lagging.
Other sausage brands use
if you check the stream, can you hear
That's just not good.
It's loading.
Keep it real, people, and keep it juicy.
Oh, I got an ad.
No, yeah, I have an ad too. Like on my stream. What do you think?
No, on your stream I have an ad.
Intelligence as well, or does this the issues?
Might be.
Look, this is the largest audience.
Well, you know what? I'm making money, I guess.
It will be interesting to see if Harris can make clear the stark choice before voters. And where does she decide to land her punches? She can punch hard. Can she do that while rising above the needle and coming her way? But first and foremost, are we going to see a handshake? When the two
are we going to see a handshake?
We didn't back in 2016 when I did that debate.
Are we going to see a fucking handshake?
Side to side.
That's true.
Also,
I have my doubts that we're going to see that.
Oh, I'm right there.
Yeah.
But also, let me get in the right attire.
Yeah,
there we go.
Oh, is there like...
There we go. I changed the attire.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh.
I see it.
A little attire.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, that's a good question, though. Are we going to get a handshake tonight?
Let's see how this goes.
Jesus Christ. There we go. All right, 10 seconds.
10 seconds. This is our New Year's.
Happy New Year! Welcome to a new America, baby. Dear God, I don't want to see this.
David Murr. Oh.
What is this cinematic intro? This is not a reality show. This is real.
It's like the intro to Big Brother.
Last night, Donald Trump was targeting Kamala Harris for an eviction, but Kamala won the veto. The audio isn't working? Fuck me.
Oh no.
All right, let's see.
It starts right now.
It's about to be good. It's about to be good.
Oh, Jake, are you able to turn your webcam on Discord or no?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I forgot it doesn't work both ways.
It was working a second ago.
Man, if it opened the stream.
Give me a second.
Test. Oh, I can hear myself.
And Lindsay Davis.
There we go. That work?
Good evening. I'm David Buren. Thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Okay. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away.
Occur.
For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates or responses. Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Oh, shit. Please.
Oh, no music.
Do it. Oh, she was going for it. Oh,
the hand.
Oh my God, he was about to not fucking do it. She's forced him to do it. Oh my God.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited
he went straight to the podium. She
I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their #1 issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country.
Really good
Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
This is a good question.
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. I was actually, my mother raised my sister and me.
What was the question again?
But there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses,
she didn't answer the fucking question.
knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit.
But the question
My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month.
Because
economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year, because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that.
Oh, tariffs.
We're doing tariffs on other countries.
Tariffs on other countries. He doesn't know what a tariff is.
75 years.
He doesn't know what a tariff is.
We've done for the world.
We pay tariffs.
And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China.
Fellas, we do
in fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. They would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariff on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation.
Very consistent with this.
Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation has, which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before. Probably the worst in our nation's history.
Donald does not know what a tariff is.
We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions.
You see how
Unions
she's
are going to be
writing stuff down,
affected
though?
very soon.
Yeah.
And you see what's happening. You see
She's
what's
taking
happening
notes.
with
She's taking
towns
notes.
throughout the United States. You look at Springfield,
The
Ohio.
one thing-
You look at
I can't
Aurora
right now, Mara.
in Colorado.
This is important.
They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings.
She
They're
has a
going
big
in
overhead
violently.
over
These
him.
are the
Yeah.
people
Especially
that
with
she
her being
and
the
Biden
district attorney
led into our
background.
country,
So this-
and they're destroying our country. They're
She wants to
dangerous.
talk shit
They're
right
at the
now. You
highest
can see
level
that.
of
That's the
criminality,
shit-talking look.
and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast.
And
I
you can
created
see,
one of
like, the skills of a
greatest
district
economies
attorney
in the history
is,
of
like-
our country.
Yeah.
I'll do it again and even better.
Like the
We are going to
question
get
was
to
about
immigration
economy,
and border
not
security
illegal
during
immigration.
this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us.
He does not know
Donald
what a
Trump
tariff is.
left
I just want to
us
say that's
the
the main
worst
takeaway from me, at least.
unemployment since the Great Depression.
He does not know
Donald
what that
Trump
is.
left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025.
Oh, 2025
that the former
mentioned.
president intends on implementing
Put that
if
on
we
the
were
window square.
elected
Project
again.
2025.
I believe
Shit, I
very
just got
strongly
that. I
that
got
the
that.
American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us.
She
And I
cooking.
pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President
about
Trump
the
will give you a
coconut
minute here to
tree.
respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of
Hopefully
people
my
that got
bingo
together.
thing
They
is
came up with some
showing.
ideas. I guess some good, some bad.
Some
But
good,
it makes
some
no difference.
bad.
I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and
He
create
keeps
a great
going off the
economy
argument
like
that
I
he has
did before.
no idea
We
what
had the
Project
greatest economy. We
2025
got hit
is,
with
even
a
though
pandemic,
everyone under
and
his
the pandemic
administration.
was
It's
not
like in it,
since
yeah.
1917, where 100 million
And, like,
people died.
Vance
Has there
was
been anything
praising
like
it.
We did a phenomenal
Yeah.
job
Praise up
with the
the
pandemic.
RNC.
Yeah.
We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give
He
me
said he
credit
hasn't
for a lot
read
of
it,
things,
which
but
is
not enough
crazy.
credit for the great job we did with the pandemic.
he's not
but
even
the only
skimmed into
jobs
it?
they got were bounce
I
back jobs.
find
These
that
were
hard to
jobs
believe,
bounce
but
back,
I
and it bounced back,
also
and it
do
went
not
to
think he
their
knows how to
benefit.
read.
But
So
I was the one that
it
created
would
them.
make
They
sense.
know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks
Opportunity
for the richest
economy.
people.
She's about.
I am offering
she's
what
been doing
I
that.
describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed
sorry.
our relative
Donald
plans
Trump
for the
has no
future of
plan for
America.
you. It's
What
insane.
Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would
Jesus.
strengthen the economy.
Oh my God.
What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode
shut
the deficit.
the other man's
16
ear.
Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would
They brought up
increase
inflation.
and by the
Inflation.
middle of next
Inflation.
year would
Inflation.
invite a recession. You just have to look
Does that
at
count
where we
under
are and where we
inflation blame
stand on the
game?
issues. And I'd
Right?
invite you to know,
I don't know.
that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
Wow.
We knew a cutoff was going to happen.
Oh.
I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the
What?
top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value
Say
as a
black
country.
job.
It's going to
You
make
wanna say
people
that.
want to be able to go and work.
He like
and,
tried to shout
create
out.
jobs and create a lot of
Like, well, the
good,
microphone is
solid
probably
money
was,
for our country.
I'll
Just to
let him
finish
talk,
off,
I'll let him talk.
she
Sorry.
doesn't have
My
a plan.
beat.
She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have, and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years.
And give us
I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration.
But she needs to give us more than what she's already given us.
Billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else.
I did already.
The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce
probably should
so that
be brought
we
up
don't
as a
end up
question.
having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump will let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy.
Do not fucking cut him off,
that
Kamala.
she believed
don't do it.
3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy.
Is that true?
But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly,
did she name call?
I believe 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has destroyed.
I think she would excuse me when she heard that.
That's insane.
Maybe.
Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, is doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates. Because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that.
There are no,
and her
like,
vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born. Is okay. That's not okay with me.
No, did you hear what he fucking said?
What I did is something for 52 years they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade
of the baby
into the states.
It's good.
And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it.
You are worse.
And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade.
Hell yes,
and they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens
to their
body next. That is immoral.
He can use, but there isn't.
And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot.
Right now.
She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term.
Amen, Kamala.
They don't want that. And I pledge to you,
yes,
when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages.
Yes.
I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Yes.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states. And the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart. And they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible.
I changed the free space on the bingo board to whenever Trump lies, but that was like, so that's why it's the free space.
As far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter. Because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to your desk?
Well, I won't have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out
all your fucking time
and said,
golfing.
we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way.
Yeah, that's October 1st. Connor,
got
you want to do
rejected
this again on
by the
October
Supreme
1st?
Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
The reason why they got taunted is because you voted against it.
But I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America.
There you
And
go.
understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments.
There you go.
What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body.
Dead eyes.
And that is why
Excuse me,
in
I have to
every
respond.
state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on it.
Give me a second. I got to refresh it.
Yeah.
1 second, folks.
Good too.
Yeah.
Vote Cheddar Day 2024 because when Red Lobster's biscuits rise, America thrives. So come in now for a chance to win 4 years of free Red Lobster because one bite can unite all parties.
I did not mean to do that right when he said it.
Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill?
Fat baby.
Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter.
Don't do that.
He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
He's nodding.
And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you.
Nodding off.
You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires.
Brother is nodding
and
off.
I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the cats.
Does look like
you.
Like
they're
fucking
listening
the
pets.
Look at her
of the
laugh.
people
She couldn't keep
that
it in.
live there.
She looks like you.
And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase: make America great again.
Yeah.
She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, will end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify, you bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food.
The fucking Haitian,
maybe he said that.
Haitian
maybe
immigrant,
that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from television.
But the people
I'm
on
taking it from the city manager.
Their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Just yelling at him.
The Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney.
Now,
and if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if you didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit.
That I fell into.
His former secretary of defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond.
What the fuck?
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job.
Oh, I just wanted to stop by and tell you
one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else, can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far.
You lost the fucking...
In fact, I got more votes than any sitting president in history
by
far.
No? What?
Let me continue on immigration. It was what we wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to the deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military. You also said you would use local police.
We know that's wrong.
How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it. Because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country.
It's me. I'm not staying for long.
And all over the world.
Earlier, it's crazy how I said, like, take a shot every time he mentions, like,
despite their fraudulent
Mexican people.
That they made.
I was going to make it a drinking game,
and it's crazy how I was outbeat by him bringing up Venezuela.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country.
But excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime.
You might be referring to that.
Fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich.
I'm gonna start
coming
making this
from
a
someone who has been prosecuted.
Anytime I hit another bingo score, I'm taking a hit of my weed.
National security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 1,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts.
Wow.
So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page.
There's multiple places to get
on
a
this
bingo.
Same old tired rhetoric.
They've-
And address
wait, did they bring
the
up
needs
drug
of
prices
the American
yet?
people.
No.
Address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for. Address what we must do to support our small businesses. Address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with the same old tired
As I
playbook.
say it.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases
I was
was
just
started
about
by
to-
them
hold on,
against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with
tiny bit, not too much, but
because certainly we know
he
now
did
the
say
court
something
won't stop
similar.
him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Vice President Harris.
Thank you, Mike Pence.
Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one
He
that
looked
weaponized.
so annoyed
not me.
when he got
She weaponized. I
got
probably took
interrupted.
a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me.
She
They talk
blamed
about
him. He
democracy.
blamed her
I'm a
on
threat to
national
democracy.
TV
They're
for the assassination.
threat to democracy
President
with a fake
Trump.
Russia investigation
We do have a lot
that
to get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
He blamed
I don't
her.
have a space about
You
the
said you wanted to ban
assassination
fracking.
attempt.
Now
That would have
you
been
don't. You wanted
so easy.
mandatory government
He
buyback
blamed her
programs for
for
assault
the
weapons. Now your
assassination
campaign
just
says
now.
you don't.
He
You
said
supported
it's because of the
decriminalizing
things these
border
people say about
crossings.
me.
Now you're
No,
taking a
it's 'cause of
harder
what you
line. I know
fucking
you
do,
say
and then
that
they
your
say what you
values
do.
have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy
You
positions
got
changed?
somebody tried to kill
my
you.
values have not changed, and I'm going
Because
to
they were
discuss
fucking
every one of
insane.
the, at least every
And
point
your
that you've
gun
made.
laws
But in
fucking
particular, let's
suck.
talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in
Nothing to do
2020.
with her, nothing to
I
do
will
with
not ban
Biden.
fracking.
Not gonna ban fracking.
I have not
Another
banned
space on the
fracking as
board.
Vice President of the United States, and
Sorry,
in fact,
I'm really happy with
I
this
was
bingo.
the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction
fracking.
Act, which opened new
We're about to get a
leases
bingo,
for fracking.
Jay.
Drill, baby, drill.
My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy
We
so
still
we
have a-
reduce our reliance on foreign oil.
and-
we have had the largest
We have another hour.
increase in domestic
Valerie,
oil
how we
production
doing?
in history because
I
of
wish I
an
had some
approach that
garden gummies on me to watch
recognizes
this
that we
space.
cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother
Sorry, give me a second.
who
There you
worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager.
There you go.
The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that
He's
I bring
proud
to
of it.
my work to say
Small
we are
loan of
going
$1 million.
to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million
did
homes
say
by
he
the
was,
end of
like,
my first
basically
term.
innocent,
My
right?
work that
He's
is related
from the crime.
to
completely
having a friend when I was in
Oh,
high
he
school who
did
was
say that?
sexually
He's never
assaulted by her
admitted guilt.
stepfather.
Yeah.
And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable.
At his word,
my work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams.
They do not need to hear evidence.
My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up.
That's sort of intentional.
I intend to be that president.
President Trump,
well, first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that.
They are even surprised.
She's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police. She's been against that
She's
forever.
a prosecutor.
She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. She was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out.
Trolls on Reddit,
I'm talking now.
They laugh.
If you don't mind, please.
All of my people on Instagram.
Does that sound familiar? She went out.
Don't lie. Oh!
She went out.
The side-eye.
And wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis. She went out and raised money to get them out of jail.
When they said black
she did things that nobody would ever think of.
Now
she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison.
What?
This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so
they want to do
in my opinion.
Transgender operations on
I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. Wow. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were.
No way.
I would have been five times higher because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline.
Derpy.
So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead, we'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out of it. You ever see a solar plant?
They're doing transgender operations on illegal immigrants.
400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that
for
we
the
have to get
environment
to.
that she
We're out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
She keeps fucking
Lindsay,
cutting
thank
them
you.
off.
We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them.
We're bringing up Jan
The country
6th.
and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack.
January 6th.
Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically.
You didn't cover the thing.
And nobody on the other side was killed.
Oh, so it's
Babbitt
fine
was shot
that no
by
one
an
died.
out-of-control police
But
officer
people did die.
that should have never, ever shot her.
People did die.
It's
7
a
people died
disgrace.
that day. I think
But
it was 7.
we didn't do this group of
could be
people
wrong about
that
that.
have
I
been
do
treated
believe
so
it was 7.
badly. I asked,
I don't think
what
anyone
about
died
all the
on that
people
day.
that are
Yes,
pouring
they
into our
did.
country
No,
and killing
Ashley
people
Babbitt
that
got
she
shot.
allowed to pour
I
in? She
think
was the border czar,
few
remember
Capitol
that.
Police
She
died.
was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's
Ashley
embarrassed
Babbitt
by the
died.
border. In fact, she
She
said
was
at the
shot by
beginning,
Capitol
oh, I'm
Police.
surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. and crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
one of those, David, one of those people are going to be prosecuted. One of the people that burned down Minneapolis is going to be prosecuted. Or in Seattle. They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. One of those people are going to be prosecuted.
But let me just ask you.
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape.
Oh, my God. They want to get rid of that tape.
If Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their job. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator.
I didn't know she was there.
I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited
her position at the time. I just didn't know she was there at like on that day.
Everyone had to be there to like certify.
To desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured. And some died.
Yeah, you were right. There were people
and
who
understand,
died.
the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville.
He's gritting them teeth.
Where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
Whoa.
Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page.
Oh, we're not going back.
And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you.
Wait,
to stand.
I don't think I had that listed.
For country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law.
It was probably on the older one.
And to end the chaos.
I'm using the
and to
one.
end
the
approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a
both of them. Probably get a bingo on both.
If this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking,
thank you for follow again.
Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked.
No, it hasn't.
Ingram, Sean Hannity, Jessica, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed. All he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you, because it really brings us this into focus.
There was no question.
In these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I said that sarcastically. You know that. It was said,
No.
no, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval.
Look at what?
I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten.
Those ABC hosts are tired.
The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges.
No judge looked at it.
And said
they said we didn't have standing.
That's
the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline.
I will vote for him right now.
And they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris,
you
heard the
give
president
us
there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election. That was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Ooh. Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election.
Absolutely.
It leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just tell you about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men. They call him a strong man. He's a
Viktor Orban?
Smart. Prime Minister of
dictator?
Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up?
Viktor Orban is a dictator.
Need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid
Orban
of him.
is a
Look
dictator.
at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
Why is he like,
and
I'm
Biden
so happy
put
about
it
this,
back on
this
day one, but he
endorsement by
ended the XL
dictator
pipeline.
Viktor Orban.
The
What?
XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is up.
I think we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed.
All right,
children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal, and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that.
Pretty much
work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out?
Oh my God, this is not what the question's about.
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president,
I can cross off Russia, which makes our first bingo.
I know Putin very well.
Do I need to refresh?
Never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years.
Yeah, you might be behind.
My bad.
The season finale is upon us!
Fucking ad.
Dog food in thy fridge?
It's not dog food.
He started talking about
real meat, real
the war
veggies.
in Russia and Ukraine would have never started, even though that was not the question.
There's always a betrayal in the family.
Come on.
People, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money.
When are the breaks?
It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible.
Yo, you know what he got away with it? Under your fucking administration.
The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
How do we feel about that? How do we feel about that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was a little behind.
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after
We'll
this.
see. Grab your snacks now. Grab some water, grab some food.
It was a regular day for 19-year-old Melissa Witt.
She went. Okay. How do we feel about that?
Okay. We can recap, talk about what happened.
Absolutely. So, how do we feel about transgender illegal immigrant prisoners? How do we feel about that?
So, So from what I was gathering, because I was basically taking notes and crossing off bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. First off, in the span of the first break, we managed to get almost the entire bingo board crossed off. We got one bingo where there's only one line that we haven't touched, which is gonna be hard.
Yeah.
I sent it to you just in case you want to show your stream, but
I'll tell him. Let me see.
So, but it is the line we're missing that hasn't been touched is the column that says "weird" is mentioned.
Oh yeah. I think we could get childcare. I think we had childcare costs mentioned. I think we had childcare mentioned very early on.
Oh, maybe that's probably why, and I missed it. I also missed Black Jobs. My friend told me that it was mentioned. Had to text me and let me know. But I also see that Hunter Biden hasn't been mentioned. Obama hasn't been mentioned.
Yeah. Biden's been mentioned.
Biden's been mentioned, but not Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
Which would have gone on the same line as convicted felon. We've got that crossed off. They brought up, surprisingly, Russia so early.
Yeah, Russia got brought up very quickly.
The question had to do with Palestinian and Israel.
They just don't answer the questions is the problem. They do not answer the questions.
I will say Harris has gotten a bit more on like the answering the stay on semi the same topic of it, but we'll go towards a different direction.
Yeah,
Trump,
that's the problem with
Trump
these. They don't
from the
answer the
start
questions.
not answer the same question.
Neither of them answer the questions. She sorta like she'll start
like
somewhere else.
The ballpark, but not.
Yeah, she's not answering the questions. Outside. And these two are asking very middle. I want to say middle of the road, but I can sort of see a bias in a way towards Vice President Harris. Like they're being very attacky. Like they're attacking Trump a lot more than Harris, because Harris has had her issues, I think. Because I think you could talk about the border more. I think if you talked about the border, I think if you talked more about her career as a prosecutor, like how she put away a lot of people with marijuana charges, you could ask about that. You could ask about, why aren't you doing a lot of the promises or trying to push doing a lot of your campaign promises right now while you're in office than saving it for this campaign? Why not do them now while you can instead of waiting for the election to be done? Just do it now. And I think that's a very fair criticism from conservatives in the right. But I do like how tough they've been on Trump and how tough they've been on, like, calling out what he said. Because he says some fucked up shit, like, all the time. And he's showing his horrid, awful character and how much of a liar he is every single fucking time.
You keep recapping.
Yeah. What they've done, what they need to do more on Trump's side, I think, is they need to start calling out more of what he did during his presidency. Ask him about why he did stuff during his presidency. Why what he did during his presidency worked. Would he continue doing that or change his approach? What didn't work during his presidency? Why it didn't work during his presidency? Talk about and I agree that we should not talk about the past too much, but we might be back, but we'll see. But we do need to make sure that we talk about those 4 years during the presidency. We might be back.
Continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers.
Beautiful.
Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years. He hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here...
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
The war needs to end. Nobody needs to win this war.
I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up.
That's what I'll say.
And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded. Tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself.
Hold on a minute.
Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now.
Say bye-bye,
and understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
A secret polycule.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men
and
women. But he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow. Much happier than he is right now.
Quiet, please.
But eventually, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that.
Yeah.
And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening. But he does have that.
That's not
something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden, in my opinion. I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something.
Dude, this is a question.
She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate.
Stop
I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Talking. Said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Cut his mic
he got
on.
These countries,
cut his
28 countries mic. At the time.
What happened to no
up.
interrupting?
He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never
they
seen.
They have people running audio being like, well, he's talking, I have to turn on his mic. No, you don't.
We were ripped off by European nations, both on trade
Just
and
because
on
none
NATO.
of them are speaking
I
doesn't
got
mean
them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan.
Christ.
It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did.
I feel like we're very soon to
America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government.
Okay.
He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban.
Oh.
The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released.
That's
and
true.
Get this. No, get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David.
That's true.
A place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not, again, appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be Commander-in-Chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time,
thank you.
The Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. What? He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your
saying
words.
That.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5.
Slight hint at Obama.
Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual
it wasn't Trump who mentioned,
birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
Saying?
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country.
Stop letting him do this!
They're destroying our country. And they come up with things like
he's done this every single
what she
time.
Just said.
Every single
going back
fucking
many
time.
Years. When a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5. They admitted. They said they pled guilty.
Turn, Donnie.
And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly.
Let her. There you go.
Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump.
There you go.
And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country.
Fair enough. He's
one
been
who
doing this the whole fucking time she gets
in
to.
What is possible,
If
one
he
who
gets
brings a
to
sense of
cut off
optimism
she does too.
about what we can do
I don't
instead
think
of
either of them
always
should be doing it.
disparaging the
I
American
think that we should have
people.
moved on to the next question.
I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life, to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time.
Oh, my goodness.
She has a plan to confiscate everybody's
They're like begging
gun.
them. Like, we need to move on.
To not allow fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's what her plan is until just recently.
I just need to the former president has said something twice.
Now, this is
all
falling apart. It's all falling apart.
This is now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight,
why can't we get Obama and Romney back?
Running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Can we resurrect John McCain for like a minute?
Always was. It's not very good
today.
today.
We get a good debate.
And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things,
but
we're going to do it and we're going to replace it.
But
debate. Remember this. I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in this administration.
A lot of good
we read
people.
about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones, too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain.
Oh, my God.
I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan.
I'm
not president right now. But
I have concepts of a plan.
We come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive.
I was thinking about them for a minute.
And there are concepts and options we have.
On the toilet.
And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
That's what I say when I'm high as fuck.
I supported over the last 4 years as vice president private healthcare options, but what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking, and then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away, so stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. as it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight. You remember what that was like?
Disparaging the memory.
Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes.
Of war,
and
held
thankfully,
captive in
as I've been vice president, and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did.
When they get caught.
And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding
served his
that
country
the value
and
I
then
bring
came
to this
back home and
is
did
that
it again.
access to
I didn't
health
agree with a
care
lot of the stuff
should
he
be
did
a
in the
right
Senate.
and not just a privilege of those who can afford it.
He would disagree
and
with me a lot
politically. The plan has to be
the man's an American
to strengthen
hero.
the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice President Harris,
in terms of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot.
I had a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going.
I think I'm going to change one of the spaces.
We can do much better than Obamacare. Much less money.
Instead of mods being accused of being unfair.
Private insurance for people.
It's just being like pissing off the mods.
That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Shawn Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes
nothing about insulin or
growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. Okay. What they've done to business and manufacturing
when they're referring
in this country is
prescription,
horrible.
that also counts under the same.
We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions
they would be
of dollars.
referring
He's
to prescription drugs, not like
between
drug
him
drugs.
And his son. They get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Do you think Donald Trump called David Murray a bitch after during the break?
Probably.
The ABC News
you know what?
presidential
debate
will continue.
You're a bitch. You're a dog. I don't like you. You fucking suck.
Vistaprint prints business cards. But
wow.
That was something. Okay, we got to recap.
All right. What the
we
fuck?
gotta
okay, so not answering about Ukraine. Fucking mental. I agreed with Trump for a second, and then he blew me. He blew me away with that bullshit. I will give Trump a win. I'm going to give him a win in one of these categories, the Ukraine category. I'm going to give him a win. I'm going to say he outdebated Kamala in the Ukraine category. That's what I'm going to say. That's the only spot he was able to outdebate her is in regards to Ukraine, because he did have a better relationship with Putin. He did. But that's not necessarily going to be a positive for him. He's correct in him having a better relationship with Putin, but he is incorrect in how he's used it.
Yeah, because the relationship they've both had is not the best of a relationship.
It's not good for us, but it's good for him. But he does have a good relationship with Putin. I think if he is president, he could possibly negotiate the end of the war or Putin stopping his attack on Crimea and the Donbass and the rest of Ukraine if he wants to go there and end casualties. I do think Trump could do that if he were in office. That is the only positive I will give him to be in office. Other than that, Harris is squashing him immensely.
Yeah.
Immensely squashing him in every single other category. I will give him a win in Ukraine, but on everything else, Harris is squashing him. Like fully, like a bug. It's crazy.
Very much so. And current update with the bingo board in terms of everything. We have everything off the board except for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, which are the more out there ones, which I don't think would have gotten brought up anyway. Like a childless cat lady, which is just
probably won't.
Which I think is less of a literal thing. I think is more if they bring up something and they poor timing, have a camera mishap showing like bad timing.
No. I think that's going to be saved for the vice presidential debate. That'll probably be asked to JD Vance.
Yeah.
That'll happen on October 1st. Whether we stream it or not is up in the air right now. I think
we got a good majority of the board.
Yeah, I think we should stream the vice presidential debate on the 1st as well.
Yeah. Hopefully I'm available for that one. But I do think we're like a lot was covered and a lot was not covered. There was an interesting part where they both were just like kind of arguing with each other, and plus with the mods too being like, hey, I'm talking now.
Yeah. You can say it's up for debate. That's true. That's true, Robin. That's true.
Very true. Very true.
Wow.
So
wow.
This can go.
Yeah.
We'll see what they say with their closing remarks, but
this is the part that matters the most, I think. Closing statements are going to be big, very important. Very, very important. The most important. Would I be to join next time? Maybe. We'll talk. We'll talk about it. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. It might just be me and Connor, but me and Connor will talk about if we want to invite anybody else to the VP debate. We'll see. I think the VP debate should have been first, honestly. Give the actual presidential candidates a bit more time to prepare.
Well, they should have been already doing this debate like yesterday.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
They were, because of already Harris being like a last minute change.
Yeah.
Like it threw everything out. So like if you can't delay a debate anymore, like Harris.
That's true. Yeah.
Because Harris has had significantly a lot less time compared. But I think they're going back.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Closing statements.
Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
All right,
Here
everybody.
Again, David
Thank
Muir
you guys so much for
Lindsay
tuning
Davis.
in. Thank you for the follows.
Welcome back tonight. The time has
Ready
come
for
for
closing
closing statements. And Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
Harris is first.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward.
We're not going back.
But we're not going back.
There we go.
And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living.
I'm not upset. He did.
I believe in what we can do together. That is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. Amen. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. Fair. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not.
Interesting play.
Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world.
This whole closing remarks is just
I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on.
Why should people vote for you?
We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. what these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
Let's see. Let's see. Do they shake hands? Let's see.
No, they left.
Thank you. And we are here live on ABC with our post-debate comments. I'm Martha Raddatz. It was a lively debate from the economy to abortion.
Outright, in our opinion, outright winner. Outright winner of the debate? Who are we feeling? Because I think the answer is obvious.
The answer is obvious, but for the sake of Twitch, I think you got to keep that to yourself.
I got to keep it to myself. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, like, the winner's obvious, and, like, we know and everyone else knows, but we cannot say that out loud. I mean,
well, we can.
We can, but probably best not to, even though it's already obvious.
Yeah. Oh, look, they're showing the fucking moment where he tried to dodge the handshake.
First of all, because we hadn't seen a handshake.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen a handshake in a long time.
She initiated that one.
And
yeah,
not only did she initiate it,
it just makes no sense to me why he would waste his time with his closing remarks for this debate. And how important it is on just dogging him, trying to dog Kamala.
Yeah.
Because it's an interesting play, but not a smart one. Because it just sounded like a fifth grader talking a little bit.
Just I didn't do that. No, I didn't. I swear.
The stinkiest president ever.
She is. I said, and even Miss Robinson, our fifth grade teacher, she said, that Kamala, she's a doo-doo head, and I said, yes, teacher, she is.
I said, did you know?
Did you know?
She has cooties.
She has cooties. I do not have cooties. I did not let her touch me. I swear I do not have the cheese touch. I don't have it. Kamala has the cheese touch. I don't have the cheese touch.
I think Trump rakes on the doom meter.
Doom. All right. Kamala Harris, boom or doom? 3, 2, 1. Boom!
Both of them. Doom.
You didn't give me a boom or a doom, Connor.
I did.
I didn't hear it. What'd you say?
Oh.
Boom or doom? Did you say doom? You gave Kamala a doom?
I said.
All right. Trump, boom or doom? We ready?
Yes.
You ready? 3, 2, 1. Doom.
Doom.
Amen. Doom. Do we think Kamala Harris is more of a chicken bake or a double chunk chocolate cookie? What do we think? I'd argue she's chicken bake. What do you think, Connor? Connor?
Well, I'm thinking here.
Oh. I see.
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't. Why not? Well,
they're both good.
They're both good, but which do you think represents Kamala more? Chicken bake or double chunk chocolate?
But this is also unfair because I've never had either.
Me neither. But I think it's chicken bake. What do you think? Based on vibes.
Based off the vibes of the chicken bake.
Chicken bake, double chunk chocolate cookie. Which one is more of a Kamala?
I don't know. I don't know why. This is an interesting phrasing in this question.
Which one do you think? It's so simple. Which do you think is more like Kamala? The chicken bake or the double chunk chocolate cookie?
It'll be the chicken bake, I suppose.
You're back in the chicken bake? Yeah, I'm back in the chicken bake. It seems very there's a lot of layers to it, a lot of different things in there that you could either really like or really dislike. With the double chunk chocolate cookie, it's very basic, very flat. Same thing. I would equate Donald J. Trump. Tim Walz! Oh, fuck. I fucked it all up. Give me a second. Give me a second. I fucked it all up.
A nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump, angry, unhinged, and as you've been discussing, talking about things that are deeply concerning because they make no impact on the American public. He shouldn't be anywhere near the White House. And I have to tell you, if it weren't so dangerous, it reminds you of an old man yelling at the clouds. That was his thing. Get off my yard. That's what he did. Contrast that with the voice of Harris laying out the question for everything that matters. So I think the whole country can see what happened tonight. We'll keep pushing forward. That's the way that the country wants to see our politics be. She laid it out clearly. Donald Trump brought nothing tonight. Anger, resentment.
Governor Walz, I do want to ask you, she did not answer questions on abortion restrictions. She never really answered that question. Can you clear that up, where the Harris-Walz ticket stands on that?
Certainly, and you couldn't get any different than this. The reinstitution of Roe versus Wade, what was the law of the land for 52 years. You saw this in there. And
do we have a live reaction from Tim Walz?
Exactly. Yeah, we got people like Amanda in Texas, which everybody saw on the stage in Chicago, nearly bleeding out, having sepsis twice because she can't get the care. She's been absolutely clear on this. Everything Donald Trump said, that is untrue. The clarity of this is Roe. When you have Roe, you have the protections in place where women make their own decisions with their health care providers, not Donald Trump.
Amen. Okay, thanks so very much for joining us, Governor Walz. John?
And we have the other side of the ticket. We have Senator J.D. Vance, Donald Trump's running mate, joining us now. Senator Vance, thank you for joining us.
Fucking smile.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it.
So I want to get to one part in the debate where you came up. Donald Trump was asked if he would veto a national abortion ban. He didn't answer the question, suggested, I guess, that he wouldn't.
I'm ready
and
for
it was
these two,
pointed out that you, in fact,
these two are going to be a much better
ago
debate.
that he would veto a national
Vance
abortion
v.
ban.
Walz
Can you
is going to be a much
explain
better debate.
The mix-up?
Much more civil, I think.
Well, I think the president's been very clear that he doesn't want a national abortion ban. I think in some ways he finds the question a little bit ridiculous because why are we asking him about legislation that's never going to actually happen and why he would veto it or not veto it when he says very explicitly that he doesn't support a national abortion ban and he wants these policies to be made by the states. But I think there's a deeper and more important issue here in this debate, which is that you had Kamala Harris effectively echoing platitude after platitude after platitude. The American people can't pay their grocery bills on platitudes. They can't put their kids in a house on platitudes. And Kamala Harris had a lot to say, but very little actual substance behind it for how she's going to lower grocery prices, secure the border, and make housing more affordable in this country. She's been the vice president for 3.5 years. She can't run on a record, and she apparently can't run on much of her plans either because it's just a lot of slogans and not a whole lot of substance.
But Senator Vance, why won't he just say that he would veto the national abortion ban? And by the way, had you spoken to him about it before you were put in a position to answer that question?
No, I hadn't spoken to him about it because, again, Donald Trump thinks the question is absurd because he doesn't support a national abortion ban, and he's been explicit about it. And, John, I think that it's so preposterous for the media to focus so much on an issue where Donald Trump has been crystal clear and not on the fact that people can't afford groceries and housing because of Kamala Harris's policies. This election is actually quite simple, and Kamala Harris and apparently the media would like to distract Americans on issues, by the way, that Donald Trump's been crystal clear about, but they're not talking nearly enough. This debate didn't talk nearly enough about the fact that Americans are struggling because they can't afford groceries, they can't afford housing, and a lot of their kids are dying of fentanyl overdoses because Kamala Harris has let the Mexican drug cartels take over the southern border. This is a disgrace what's going on in our country, John, and we could do so much better if we just had better leadership. We've got the best workers, the most beautiful country, the best natural resources, but Kamala Harris's leadership is squandering the great benefits of this country. It's why we've got to get back to Donald Trump's leadership.
Senator, by the way, I asked because he hadn't been crystal clear and he said something different than what you said. That's why I was seeking clarification. But let me ask you about this for just very quickly. I heard Donald Trump before this debate describe Kamala Harris as, I'll just read a few of them, a low IQ individual, somebody who doesn't have the mental capacity to be president, really dumb, unable to put two sentences together. Is that what you saw on the stage tonight?
John, what I saw was a lot of slogans. I think the American people are smart, and Kamala Harris talks to them like they're children. She repeats these ridiculous platitudes where if you actually think about what she said, you realize that it doesn't make any sense. She talks a lot about her plans, but then her plans, when you analyze the substance, don't make any sense. And more importantly, John, the American people don't get fed on plans. She has been the vice president for 3.5 years. What she can't do, refuses to do, and has no ability to do is to say, I accomplished lower prices because she didn't, or I accomplished lower housing prices because she didn't, or I secured the southern border because she didn't do that. She has failed as vice president, and the fundamental question is, do we want to give her a promotion? I think the answer has to be no, John.
All right, Senator Vance, thank you for joining us, Mary.
One thing both sides can agree on, this was a consequential night.
I disagree with Vance on nearly every issue. He can fucking debate. Yeah, he's actually on topic. Which is going to, and same with Walz. Walz actually stays on his topics, which is why I'm very excited for that debate. What do you think of the Walz v. Vance debate coming up? What do you think about that? I'm asking you, what do you think? What do you think about the Walz v. Vance debate that's coming up? Do you think that's going to go better or worse than this?
So with that, I think it can go either way. I think they both. I trust both of them to stay on topic more than Harris and Trump, because it's hard to it's hard to figure out like where what I'm trying to say is I think it'll go a lot better.
Yeah.
Like it'll be more civil and less off topic, but I can also see Walt wanting to go off topic only a little bit.
Yeah,
but still relevant.
Because
also, did you see this video of Trump being accidentally saying, "Tomorrow I'm doing 9/11"?
I did not see that.
I'm a DM it.
Oh my god. I think there are certain topics where it could become non-civil, like with the topic of Walz's military service. Vance was very vocal about accusing Walz of either exaggerating his service or he had essentially and echoed claims of accusing Walz of stolen valor, which is a very, very big accusation to make from one Marine to another Marine.
Yeah.
It's like crazy. So it's gonna be, I think once that comes up, and I'm certain it will come up, like he'll ask Walz about his service and then they'll ask JD Vance to respond about it. I think it's gonna be a very heated part of the debate that I won't think will be like civil or, and I think they'll have a right to be discivil about it because Vance does believe that Walz, his retirement was inopportune for the country, and Walz has had an extensive service and would have had the right to retire whenever he pleased. Vance accused Walz of abandoning his platoon that he was commanding. Walz says no. They were deployed a year after he, I believe it was a year after he had retired. So I'm very interested to see how they handle that.
Yeah. There is one part I think is interesting when looking back at like the debate, looking at like different clip notes that happened through it. Um, it was a moment that I think we missed where Trump like just brought up that there was abortions happening during the 9th month.
No, yeah, he did say that. That's a full lie.
Yeah, and one of the mods, Lindsay Davis, said right to his face, "There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it is born." That's one big thing, which props.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of moments where he would just like saying stuff, and they would like later fact check him, being like, "This is just not it, dude."
Yeah, this is crazy. All right. Closing thoughts, Connor. What do you think? Anything you want to say before we end off?
I think hopefully the next one isn't as bad. I mean, this one wasn't terrible. It could have gone a lot worse.
Yeah.
But it went all right.
It was a shit show last time. But yeah, this one was
the other last one was hard to watch. This one, they both were
semi-good.
Conscious for.
Yeah.
Trump looked a little nervous, but
Trump did look very nervous. Trump looked absolutely. I will hydrate for you, Robin. Thank you.
Yeah. I think like
Trump was definitely ill prepared.
Oh yeah, I was just saying he was probably like all his talking points he could have brought up, the views he just probably couldn't use, or anytime when he tried doing he got put down really fast or turned down.
And then he like lost a lot of points with cutting off moderators, stopping the asking of questions, attempting to interrupt Harris. And then what really upset me in this debate was that they just let him get away with it after saying, no, mics will be muted, there will be no interruptions, all this, yada, yada, yada. And then they don't follow through with that. That really upsets me. And I think ABC should have handled that a lot better. They should have just firmly, completely stopped it right there. Cut his mic if he's interrupting. That is the point of having the muted mics. They didn't keep the mics muted. They let them talk more and more, and even Harris started like cutting off questions, cutting off Trump. This is not what we wanted to see. We wanted to see a rigid, civil, sensible debate where we can understand whose position is what their position is, how they want to get it done, and responses to why the other's position is not correct. That's what we wanted. I would have loved to hear much more rigid, much more like formal debate. Cutting people off, not keeping your promises about keeping mics muted, it's unacceptable. And if this shit happens during the Vance-Walz debate, which I would be very surprised if the Vance-Walz debate devolves like this debate did partially, because there was a point where they were just talking over each other nonstop, like just completely derailing the debate, and the moderators could barely get it back into under control. But I do believe the winner here should be very obvious. It should be the person who kept their cool, and we know who that is. The person who was patient, the person who kept their cool, the person who obeyed the rules of the debate the most, the person who did not get angry, who did not resort to name-calling, the person who kept policy in the front, name-calling, and insults in the back. And certainly they did include name-calling or insults in their speeches and points. It's unavoidable with these two, but it's very clear who wins this debate and who should win the election.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, until October 1st.
All right. I mean, are we making it official? We going October 1st? VP debate, you and I?
Let's hope.
Yeah, let's hope we make it to October 1st. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully I'm not working, but let's try to make it happen.
Yeah. All right. Connor, thank you so much. Anything else you wanted to say?
I don't think so. I think that was it.
All right, everybody. You all know where you can find Connor. Twitch.tv/Connor Hawk. That's CONNERHAWK. I believe that is the correct name. Let's go ahead and pull this up for you all. Twitch.tv.
That's true.
Let me find it. Connor Hawk. There he is.
Oh, you're on light mode. Oh, my eyes.
I'm so sorry. This is who we're following. Please give Connor a follow. He was great during this debate. It was amazing.
Until next debate.
Absolutely. Until the October 1st debate with Walz and Vance, which I think will be a much more policy focused, much more civil debate than the previous. I really, really, really loved tonight. This was a great night. Very interesting debate. I mean, look at these two fucking schmucks. I mean, Jesus. But yeah, this was amazing. Really fun, really good stuff.
Well, you have a good night, Jake.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me, Connor.
Of course.
Yeah, man.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. Alrighty, fellas. Who won this one? Yeah, it's very clear who won this debate. Should we raid Queso? No, I'm fucking with you. Let's see. Anyone else we could debate? Not debate, sorry. We could raid. Scottish, you have no clue. That's fair. Alright. By the way, fellas, if you are not followed, please do. It helps the channel out really, a lot. Let me go ahead and go into just chatting mode. Thank you guys so much. If you want to follow and you want to have notifications on, you want to tune in for the October 1st debate between JD Vance and Tim Walz, Governor Tim Walz and Senator Vance. Me and Connor will be doing this again on the 1st of October. This is the first time I've ever done any news coverage or politics stuff. This was very interesting. I think I did pretty well. Connor did really well. We tried to be impartial, but it's very hard to do when, everybody sort of knows our I'm very left-leaning. Connor's very left-leaning. It's very hard to remain impartial when you're not really in that middle portion anymore. The reason I was able to sort of go into Trump policies and understanding why Trump says what he says, believes what he believes, is because I used to be right-leaning and then navigated my way as I got older to this new position of left-leaning. I feel like I tried to remain as impartial. I gave Trump some points during the debate. I did say he won a portion of the debate. I think he had a better statements on the war in Ukraine and his relationship with Putin than Kamala did. Kamala really dodged that question a lot more than Trump did. Because, again, there was not a lot of troops moved into Ukraine, in the Crimea, in the Donbass, while Trump was president. And this did happen under the Biden administration, which is a very valid criticism of the Biden-Harris administration. Other valid criticisms is the increase of illegal immigration, and and, drug trafficking during the Biden administration. Absolutely, I can see that. And the idea that Kamala can make the changes that she wants to like have during her presidency if she wins, but when she could attempt to do at least one or two of these things. Now, I need Kamala during more campaign trail stuff to talk about what she's doing in office right now than what she's going to do later. I need to know, are you trying to do this now so that you don't have to do it later? It's like how, if you procrastinate on an essay too long, it's going to become too late. Because we said that we were going to codify Roe v. Wade, and we never did. Biden never did. Biden never codified Roe v. Wade. And if Kamala becomes president, we need a lot of movement in the Senate and in the House of Representatives to both be blue. We need both blue Senate and blue House of Representatives to get that done. We really do. We really, really need it, like a full blue House of Representatives, full blue Senate. We cannot have 50-50. We need 2/3. Or as close as we can get to 2/3. So that Tim Walz can put that bill up to the presidency and codify Roe v. Wade once and for all. We need that to happen. But yeah, does anybody have suggestions on who to raid? Also, if you are new to the channel, please give us a follow. You'll be seeing us every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday for variety streams. I'll always be streaming Minecraft on Tuesdays. If you're very interested in lore / roleplay, that's always going to be on Tuesdays. Mostly lore, mostly roleplay on Tuesdays. Fridays usually will be either Willow or Balatro. Willow SMP, either lore or just fun stuff. Or I play Balatro. Sunday's going to usually be Balatro. Any other day will be Balatro, or maybe if I'm feeling in a certain mood, Destiny 2 with Dio or Ray or them. But we shall see if we can get that done and how Destiny runs on the laptop. For now, the games that we're going to be playing are Minecraft and Balatro, because those games run very well. We did some Roblox Dress to Impress. Yeah, I'd let Solus, you would absolutely be included in that. We'd try and get you in the Destiny 2 lobby with me, Ray, Dio, those fellas. But yeah, as I said, if you want notifications on for October 1st, follow the channel. Keep notifications on. You will know when I'm live, which is every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. That's what I'm streaming during the semester. I will alert on my Twitter, which is linked on my channel. If there are any other days, I will go live during a given week. Hi, baby.
Yo.
Come here. That's my baby. What'd you think of the debate?
Fucking batshit crazy people.
I know. It devolved.
It did after the second break.
It devolved.
I was taking a shot every single time he said China, and I'm low-key wasted right now. I'm not gonna lie. I'm low-key wasted right now.
Robin says, hello, ma'am, you look very nice.
Thank you. I had to take 2 shots, one after another, because he said China twice in a row.
Oh my god. Transgender illegal immigrants.
I literally said, okay, so I was watching with my best friend, Ray. That bitch says that shit. Both of us look at each other at the same time and rock forward, and this bitch hits me in the motherfucking nose. And I almost got a nosebleed. I've never got a nosebleed in my life.
That's crazy.
But, yeah. But that bitch. And then I turned to her and I was like, that literally sounds like the porn I watch. I don't watch that, but somebody's watching that porn.
That's crazy. Oh, no, me and Connor I erupted during that shit.
Generally,
I almost fucking fell out of my chair.
I literally started crying because you hit my nose so hard.
When at the beginning of the debate, I fucking nearly choked when he said, okay, so he has no plan. I'm like, what the fuck? She went straight for the jugular on that one. It was crazy. I fucking love that. We're probably gonna do the October 1st debate too between Vance and Walz.
I was literally telling Ken the whole time, it's gonna be so good.
Oh, I'm so ready because fuck JD Vance, by the way, but at least he stays on policy.
Barely.
Most of the time he stays on policy.
Have you seen that video of him going up to the donut shop people and be like,
"Oh, I do." He does not seem fucking human. Good. He's Republican Mark Zuckerberg.
He is.
Oh my god, it's so bad. But I mean, he stays on policy, which is more than you can say about Trump.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Alright. Oh.
Crazy as shit.
Alright, I'm gonna end stream. I'm gonna raid somebody. I'll be up in a second. Sorry, baby. You good?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you doing over there?
I have
your massage gun? Oh my god. They're gonna think you're doing something else over there.
They saw what I was holding up.
I know. I'm fucking with you, baby. I love you. I love you, baby.
I love you.
Alright, let's see. We could raid. Why not raid Proz? What is Proz up to? Yeah, we'll raid Proz. I fucking love that guy. I lived with Proz for like a week. This is the fella I went to VidCon with. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. That was a really good stream. That was crazy. We're 20 away from 600, which is insane. That's insane that we're 20 away from 600. All right. Let's go ahead and get this done. Thank you guys so much for coming in. I appreciate it. Last minute. If you want to follow, that'll turn notifications on automatically. You'll get notified whenever I'm live, which will be Tuesdays, Fridays, Sundays. We'll try and do Tuesday, Friday, Sunday every time. If not, that's how it goes. And you'll be notified when I'm live on my Twitter. If you follow that, that'll be on my Twitch profile. So thank you guys so much. And again, give Proz love. Let's stay positive. Let's not flood Proz's chat with a bunch of politics. Because he's playing Minecraft and doing his thing. So, thank you guys. See ya.